Once upon a time, long, long ago, there was a big old tree at the edge of a green meadow. Its roots spread wide and deep, and under those roots, hidden safely beneath the earth, was a warm little home made of soft sand and moss. That home belonged to Mother Rabbit and her 4 little children, Flopsy, Mopsy, Cottontail, and Peter. Mother Rabbit loved her children very much. Every morning she brushed their fur clean, washed their faces with the edge of her paw, and gave each of them a kiss on the forehead. Her burrow was cozy. There were tiny chairs made from old tree bark, a round wooden table where the little rabbits ate breakfast, and a bed for each of them made with leaves and hay. When the wind blew outside, it sounded like a lullaby through the roots. It was a peaceful home. One bright and sunny morning, after a night of gentle rain that left the grass sparkling, Mother Rabbit tied on her apron and said, "My dear little ones, you may go out into the field or down the lane today. The sun is shining and the air smells sweet. But whatever you do," she said firmly, "do not go into Mr. McGregor's garden." Her eyes grew serious as she spoke. "Your poor father had an accident there once," she continued softly, "and he ended up in a pie made by Mrs. McGregor." The little rabbits gasped. They had heard that story before, and each time, Peter's ears twitched with curiosity. Mother Rabbit smiled gently again. "Now off you go, my darlings," she said. "I must go shopping across the field. Behave yourselves and don't get into trouble." She picked up her basket and umbrella and hopped down the lane toward the baker's shop. Inside the burrow, the 4 little rabbits put on their small jackets. Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail wore brown ones, and Peter, who was quite proud of it, wore a blue jacket with brass buttons. When they came out into the sunshine, the world was fresh and green. The bees buzzed softly around the clover, and the birds were singing in the hedges. Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail decided to be good little rabbits. They went down the lane, laughing and chatting, and began to gather blackberries in their small baskets. But Peter, who was very naughty and full of curiosity, stood still for a moment and thought. "Mr. McGregor's garden," he whispered to himself. "That's where the best food is. Lettuce, carrots, peas, and radishes. Why should I eat blackberries when I could have real vegetables?" And without another thought, Peter turned down the path that led straight to the garden gate. The gate was high, but there was a small space underneath, just big enough for a determined little rabbit. Peter wiggled and wriggled, and with one last push, pop, he slipped inside. Before him stretched rows and rows of delicious food. Green cabbages shining with dew, fat red radishes, crisp lettuces, and tall bean plants. Peter's eyes grew wide. "Oh my," he whispered, "this is rabbit heaven." He began to eat. First, he nibbled some lettuce, then a few French beans, then a big, round radish, and after that, he found a patch of carrots, sweet and crunchy, just perfect. Peter's little tummy was soon very full. He felt happy and proud of his cleverness. But then, something caught his eye. A pair of big black boots came around the corner of the cucumber frame. It was Mr. McGregor, the gardener himself. He was tall and red-faced, wearing a big hat and heavy boots. In one hand he carried a rake, and in the other a watering can. When he saw Peter, his eyes went wide. "Stop, thief!" shouted Mr. McGregor. And he dropped the can and ran toward Peter. Peter was terrified. He dashed through the cabbages, his little blue jacket buttons flashing in the sun. He could hear Mr. McGregor's boots thudding behind him. Thump, thump, thump. Peter tried to find the gate, but the garden was big and confusing. He ran up one path and down another, past rows of onions and beets, until his heart was pounding and his breath came fast. In his hurry, Peter jumped out of one shoe among the cabbages, then another as he raced through the potatoes. The soft mud pulled them right off his paws. "Oh dear," panted Peter, "I can't stop to get them." A moment later, he wriggled under a gooseberry bush, but the buttons on his blue jacket caught on the branches. He pulled and tugged, but the more he pulled, the more the jacket stuck. He could hear Mr. McGregor getting closer. Then, snap! The buttons popped off. Peter wriggled free and darted away, leaving his jacket behind. Mr. McGregor found it hanging there. He hung it up on a scarecrow's stick and muttered, "That'll teach that little thief a lesson." Poor Peter ran and ran until he was out of breath. He sat down under a bush and cried a little. "I should have listened to Mother," he sobbed. "I wish I hadn't come here." But then he heard a scratching noise nearby. He looked up, and there was a white cat sitting quietly, watching the goldfish in a pond. Her tail twitched slowly from side to side. Peter remembered what his cousin Benjamin Bunny had told him. Don't ever talk to a cat. So Peter crept away quietly on tiptoe, leaving the cat staring into the water. He went across the garden, past the rows of onions, and found a big watering can, half full of water. He climbed inside to hide, his nose just above the rim. It was cold and wet, but at least he was safe for a little while. Just then, splash! Mr. McGregor came back with the watering can in his hand. Peter held his breath, trying not to sneeze. But oh, he couldn't help it. Ka-choo! Mr. McGregor dropped the can in surprise, and Peter jumped out, splashing water everywhere. He ran as fast as his little legs could go. Peter raced across the garden, through the bean rows, and over a patch of cabbages. He saw a small open window in the tool shed. He squeezed through just in time as Mr. McGregor slammed the door behind him. Inside, Peter hid in a watering pot again, trembling. The shed smelled of wood, onions, and flowers. He could hear the bees buzzing outside. When everything grew quiet, Peter hopped softly to the door, peeked out, and saw the garden gate in the distance. He ran as fast as he could, his little paws flying over the dirt, his heart pounding in his chest. He slipped under the gate and finally, found himself back in the tall grass beyond the garden. Safe at last. Peter didn't stop until he reached the woods. He sat down on a rock, panting hard. His fur was muddy, his ears drooped, and he had no shoes or jacket left. He started the long walk home, sniffling quietly as he went. The woods were full of evening sounds, crickets chirping, leaves whispering, and a soft wind blowing. By the time Peter reached the big old tree, the sun was setting, and the burrow glowed softly from the firelight inside. Mother Rabbit was sitting at the table when Peter stumbled in. "Oh, Peter," she said, looking at his muddy fur and empty paws. "Where have you been?" Peter couldn't answer. He was too tired. Tears filled his eyes, and he just hugged his mother tightly. Mother Rabbit sighed, then smiled gently. "My poor little rabbit," she whispered. "You've had quite an adventure." She washed his face, brushed the dirt from his fur, and wrapped him in a soft towel. Then she made a cup of warm chamomile tea and gave it to him in bed. "Drink this slowly," she said, "and rest. Tomorrow you will feel much better." Peter sipped the tea, feeling warmth spread through his body. His eyelids grew heavy. In the kitchen, Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail sat quietly at the table. They had been good all day, and Mother Rabbit served them bread, milk, and fresh berries. They told her about their trip down the lane, about how they had seen butterflies and picked flowers. But they spoke softly, because they didn't want to wake Peter, who was already dozing off in the next room. That night, Peter dreamed of the garden again. In his dream, it was quiet and peaceful. No Mr. McGregor, no chase, just the sound of the breeze moving through tall green leaves. He saw bright carrots shining in the soil and butterflies dancing in the sunlight. He hopped between the rows happily, but this time, he didn't eat too much. When he woke the next morning, sunlight was streaming through the burrow's doorway. He stretched, yawned, and smiled. 6 Mother Rabbit came in, smoothed his ears, and said kindly, "Now, Peter, what did we learn yesterday?" Peter looked down and whispered, "I'll never go into Mr. McGregor's garden again." Mother Rabbit chuckled softly. "Well," she said, "we'll see about that." She kissed him on the nose and went to prepare breakfast. Outside, the grass was fresh with dew again. Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail were already playing near the hedge, collecting flowers and berries. Peter peeked out of the burrow door, feeling the morning sun on his fur. He thought about the garden far away, about the lettuce and carrots, the smell of the soil, and the rush of the chase. He smiled to himself. Maybe he would visit again one day, but only to look, and maybe to say thank you to the garden for the lesson it had taught him. He hopped outside, joined his sisters, and soon their laughter filled the meadow. As evening came once more, Mother Rabbit gathered her children home. She tucked them into their little beds of hay, kissed each one on the head, and whispered softly, "Good night, Flopsy. Good night, Mopsy. Good night, Cottontail. Good night, Peter. Sleep well, my darlings. May your dreams be gentle and your hearts always kind." The moon rose over the meadow, silver light shining on the burrow's door. Inside, all 4 rabbits were fast asleep, breathing softly, safe and warm. And somewhere far away, in the quiet garden, the scarecrow with Peter's blue jacket stood still under the stars, guarding the cabbages through the night. Good night, Peter. Good night, little rabbits. Good night, garden and moonlight. Sleep well, and no more mischief tomorrow.